the movie, right? We have a 15-minute a countdown, right? It actually takes 22 minutes on screen, so they kind of expand the timeline there.
Oh wow!
For the bombs at the end. So there you go. There's some trivia. We'll have a couple more pieces as we always do as we talk through the film. But there's a good flyover of Mission Impossible Fallout trivia.
The 15-minute countdown, the extended edition.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent, right on. Well, that's some great trivia for our last trivia for Mission Impossible for the time being. Anyways, good job. I want to start off talking about a couple of the fake outs in the film, and I don't know if it's because I watched them all relatively back to back, but there was a couple of major fake outs in the film that I caught on my initial watch in the theaters. Like for instance, the CNN thing with Wolf Blitzer, I guess is his name there. Mm-hmm. I knew as soon as they got into there, I knew what they were doing, because I didn't believe that they would have failed that badly that the bombs would have gone off. So instantly I'm like, okay, so this is basically what they did in the first movie. Well, yeah. So I caught that one right away. Did you catch that on your initial watch, or did that surprise you?
You know, I thought, whoa, like they blew up the Vatican and, you know, the Temple on the Mount and all these things. And I was like, that is a bold thing to do, because usually Mission Impossible, they stay grounded in the real world. Like, they don't really change anything major like that. And I was like, okay, that's a very bold choice. Let's see. But once they started, like, reading the manifesto, I was like, we can do it with one phone call. I started to get a little suspicious, you know. And You're right. It does mirror the very first cold open in the first movie where they fake out a guy. And get what they need from in like a stage environment. But I even though I kind of thought something fishy was going on, I did enjoy it. I thought that was pretty creative.
Yeah, and then so with the cell phone, the cracked cell phone that you mentioned already. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, like I caught it on the initial watch. I don't know if you're supposed to catch it on the initial watch, but I did.
I think you are. I think you are, because if you listen to the music, like, it gets all ominous when he passes her the cell phone, because they made a point. They showed Ethan pull the cell phone out of the guy's pocket, and it's cracked. And then they make a point to focus on when Walker gives Angela Bassett the cell phone, and it's not cracked, and that music's like, you're like, okay, is everyone paying attention? This is the wrong phone, you know, so... But at that point, you don't know, like, why is he doing that? Is he doing it to get him out of the way, or is he doing it because he's John Lark? So I think there's still room for, you know, them to go either way with that.
Right, but then the other one was when we had the fake out mask with Benji. Mm-hmm. I'm like, as soon as they left and he went, and as soon as he closed it and went in there to talk to him, I'm like, well, that's Benji.
Why did you think that?
On my initial watch, I don't know. I'm like, okay, I just sensed it right away on my initial watch. I'm like, maybe again, because I had just watched 5 Mission Impossible films in relative succession to lead up to this in the theater. I didn't see that as a surprise. I'm like, this has to be Benji, because he's like revealing everything right now.
What about when the secretary, Alec Baldwin, comes in and they have their whole scenes together where he has to like turn Hunt in, and then, you know, they knock him out and they take it. Did you feel like that was a triple cross there, or did you think that was really what's going on? Do you think they'd really knocked out the secretary?
Yeah, I did think that. I didn't realize that part, but the Benji part I did. So like the rest of it was a surprise to me, but the Benji being still in the room was not a surprise to me.
So yeah, this one does take a lot of turns, but I mean, even though I kind of caught on to some of them, like I felt like none of them were real cheap. You know, like Mission Impossible 2, like the masks really started to feel cheap. Like, all right, come on now. You know.
Yes.
But here I didn't feel that, even though you might have been able to see it coming.
Yeah, like it didn't take away from my enjoyment of the film at all. You know, I really loved the film, and even though I saw those things, It did not take away from my enjoyment of the film at all, because there was just so much wonderful spectacle in this film from start to finish. Like this is 2.5 rock solid hours of entertainment, and you know, the 2 times that I've seen it now, it is not. There's no dry parts. It is not boring at any time. It is go go go. It is a 2.5 hour wild ride.
So what is your favorite action set piece then, or even action scene? Because there's so many to choose from. Because in most of the films there's like 1, 2, but here there's probably like 5 or 6 to choose from. What do you have a favorite of the action set pieces?
Probably the free fall is my favorite because of the way that it was done. Mm-hmm. You know, like just the way that they've decided to film it, where the camera walks with Ethan to the end of the plane. Then they turn around and walk back into the plane. and then Walker rips the mask out, and Walker walks past him, and then the cameraman turns around, and you see Walker jump out of the plane, and then you stick with Ethan, and he walks in front of Ethan, and then walks backwards, and the camera falls out of the plane with Ethan following it. It's just so choreographed so well. I really love that sequence, and it is really tense, and I love the music. Like, the free fall cue in this is probably my favorite piece of music from last year. Like, I'm into film scores, and while I don't get a chance to pay attention to a lot of them, you know, out of the ones that I did see, I really love the music for this movie a lot, and this is hands down my favorite music cue in the whole film.
I loved it when they get struck by lightning, how the music just comes to a screeching halt. I thought that was a great effect.
Yeah, I think it's really outstanding. And it's really tense because you're like, you know, they've got the countdown of pulling the chute, and, you know, just the way that he gets, right at the end when Ethan gets caught on that thing, right? And then you get the tension relief of like, hey, you lost your oxygen, you know? Like, it's such a cheesy joke, but it works and it relieves the pressure so well.
And he's such a smarmy guy. Like, you love to hate him because even before you know he's a villain, you don't like this guy, right? Oh, you forgot your oxygen? Like, you jerk. You know, I just saved your life and you're being a smart ass, like, over here. But, you know, about that Halo jump. So it took them 106 jumps to get that. They wanted 3 solid takes. So between their 106 jumps, they got, you know, 3 takes to choose from because you just want to do it once. And it's crazy thinking about how they did this because they had their camera operator. He was on an IMAX lens on a red camera, which is like a really high def camera because they're doing this in low light. They're doing it at dusk as well. That made it more difficult for them, right? Because they want to do it at dusk. So that think about that. You have a limited time of day to do that when the sun is just over the horizon. But it's a 20-pound camera. This camera with the lens on it, and he was a skydiving camera operator, so he had to jump out with Tom Cruise, obviously, and then he had to stay kind of 3 feet away from him at all times. And they did have a device that they could do, you know, remote focus, so he didn't have to worry about focus. Can you imagine trying to do all that? But obviously there is some CGI involved, right? But like just you can see how real it is, right? And there's enough realness to it where you're not, oh, well, that's CGI, like you are in so many movies. And that is the power of these movies. Like even Henry Cavill, right? He's been Superman and stuff. He's talked about like, yeah, when I'm training and working out to be Superman, like it's a different kind of, you know, training because, yeah, you have to like sculpt your body and be all that. But here in Mission Impossible, it was about like training to get all these stunts correct and all this choreography. And he said it was way, way, way more complicated and challenging, and he really enjoyed it. Like you said, there's so many wonderful action sequences in this film, and it is nonstop. Like each of the action sequences are not small. Mm-hmm. You know, like I think right after that we've got the scene in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. You know, and like it's choreographed, and you can really tell that there's some crazy choreography there, and you can tell that it's planned out, but it's still such an amazing feat because, you know, he's grabbing him in the neck he ripped out the pipe and whatnot and pulls him down with it. And it's like, it's definitely highly choreographed. You know what that made me, and that's a great fight scene, you know, because you get to see, you know, at the time, you know, Walker and Hunt are on the same side at this point, so they're kind of teaming up against Guy. And I love how the fake John Lark, he's going through their throat, you know, to kind of knock them out, because that's what you do. You know, if you cut off their oxygen, you know, you got to recoup, and that's why how this little guy could survive so long against, you know, especially Walker and then Ethan Hunt. Now, and did you think of Star Trek? Because I did. I thought of Space Seed when Kirk pulls out the pipe from engineering. When the guy pulls out the sink pipe to fight him. That's what I thought of. No, I did not think of that. That's funny. Yeah, but I definitely didn't think of that. That's awesome. You have that. So. You have, you know, God, it's just the helicopter thing. The enemy. Well, we can get to that when we talk about more of the climax. But it's just one action set piece after another. And, you know, in some movies, like, you know, in some recent James Bond movies, you think like Quantum of Solace, right? That's one I always point out. Where it's like, you have your car chase, and you have your foot chase, and you have your boat chase, and you have your airplane chase. And it just felt really tired and bored. And that might have been the way it was presented, shot in film. But in this one, like, I'm like, you have the same kind of stuff. You had a car chase, and a motorcycle chase, and a foot chase, and jump down out of an airplane. But none of that felt stale here. You know, like the way they chose to go about it, like you really feel and the action is so visceral. You know, you don't get, because sometimes you
Yeah.
get overwhelmed. You get desensitized to how much action is going on, and I never felt that way in this film.
No, not at all. I don't know what it is. Like, I'm not a filmmaker. I don't know how they did it. But one of my favorite parts of the film is when they're about to put Solomon Lane in the car and they open it up and that policewoman is standing there.
Yes.
You know, and it's a humorous moment. It is a really humorous moment because they're like, this guy's got a bag over his head and they're going to try and stuff him in this car. And again, I've said it before, I've said it multiple times, like, Ethan Hunt is such a good man, and it shows here where he's, you know, this cop can't just let them go. She can't just walk away. She's a cop. She's got to do her job. But, you know, when she gets shot in the leg and then Ethan Hunt kills those other people, and he just goes over, puts the pressure on her, and holds up the mic to her to let her call for help. You know, he could have just said, I need help, because he can speak French, but it's just the action of him letting her say it. It's like, look, I'm here helping you. I'm sorry you're in this, but I'm letting you do this because I don't want any harm to come to you.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a thread that has gone out through all the movies, but especially this one, even at the beginning, and I can right back around and talk about that. But that scene with the cop, you know, it's like, whoa, because he, you know, he kind of tries to talk her down, right? And then she gets shot, and you're like, whoa, whoa! And it's those other guys that have shown back up, and they're about to go kill the cop. And I thought, oh, wow, he's going to have to, like, can't break cover. He's going to have to let these guys kill her. Because, you know, he played through the whole scenario when it said earlier, when they're talking through, again, Mission Impossible storytelling technique. They're talking about the plan, you're seeing it, you know, and when I first saw it, I thought it was like the other movies where you're actually seeing them carry out the heist, if you will. And like, oh, they're shooting cops and all this, and he has to, I'm like, oh my God. And they cut back, and like, oh, okay, good. Because Ethan Hunt would not do this, and that's what this movie goes out of its way to say. But but then he goes and kills these other guys, these mercenaries, basically, you know, to just save this cop's life. And he takes the time, right? Because they're on a time crunch here, but he takes the time, and he's like, I'm so sorry, you know, and I totally believe, and I believe him, too. You know, he's not just lip service. And wrapping back around to the beginning of the movie, you know, and that's why they lost the plutonium in the first place, and because he, you know, wanted to save Luther and save his team. And that's what Angela Bassett said. It's like, well, you know, his team will be dead, but that's the job. And, you know, she does have a point, right? But he just won't, he will not allow himself to lose team members. And, you know, they had talked about, you know, like killing Brandt, and then or talked about killing Luther or something at the beginning to set some stakes. And you know, I'm glad they didn't, because I feel like we've done that before in the movies with these more disposable characters, and that would have been a cheap way to, like, oh, now he's really, this time it's personal. Like, we don't need that. There's enough personal stuff going on. But I will say, like, I thought, you know, Ving Rhames has been in these since the beginning. Benji is kind of like another Luther. That is a way, like, just in the moment, like, thinking back through it now, like, obviously he was in a lot more scenes in the trailer, so I should have known they weren't going to kill him off there. But when he just shoots him, I'm like, whoa, they just killed Luther. That's crazy. But, you know, that was a great fake out, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. They did a really good job with that. And, you know, you mentioned another part, which is the visualizing the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that McQuarrie decided to direct this one, where it was just the music and none of the sound effects, was really powerful, and it actually made me believe that we were actually watching it this time. You know, like, even though we've seen it in every movie, I'm like, holy smokes, this is powerful. And I really appreciated that directorial choice of having just the music. And it wasn't even like crazy action music. It was very somber music that we were hearing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and because it's a somber thing. Yeah, because you're like, whoa, they have to kill these cops. And I like how he plays it off. You know, like, oh, do you draw the line at killing cops? And he's like, I murder women and children with smallpox. I'm John Lark. I have no line. You know, it's just, again, Ethan impersonating these people, because that's another theme that goes through the movie. It kind of reminded me a lot of Mission Impossible 4, you know, Ghost Protocol, where they don't know if the villains have met each other yet, so they just have to play it off. And he's like, I'll figure it out. Yes. And that's another theme in the movie here. You know, it's kind of played for comedy, but it's kind of not. He's like, I'm working on it. I'm going to figure it out, right? And it is true. But they always do figure it out. And I like that, because it's comedy and it's the story, really, as well. So it's not just, you know, he's figuring. He's not like some clueless guy trying to figure stuff out. But this stuff really is some crazy, impossible stuff, no pun intended, and he has to find a way to do it. Like, I love how he's in the helicopter, and he's like, we got airspeed. We got airspeed. Like, he doesn't know how to fly a helicopter. He's figuring it out, and I enjoy that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of really great stuff in it, and this is kind of the pinnacle. Like, it takes the best elements of what we've seen in the previous 5 films and makes it into something special. Yes, we've seen these things before,